Hello, Legacy students. This is Miss Marsh. We're going to look at solving absolute value equations today. Make sure you have your notebook with you. Make sure you have your pencil. And then also you're probably going to want a calculator today. So what's the video going to focus on? So our goal is to be able to solve absolute value equations. Now, I'll show you what those actually look like in a moment. So if you remember some vocab, we want to know about absolute value. So, if you remember back, absolute value, we said that's denoted, as x with some bars around. Now, what that meant is that x is the distance the number is from 0 on the number line. So if we have the absolute value of 3, that is going to be 3. What this means is 3 is 3 from 0 on the number line. Now, what we're going to use this for is extending it so when there's actually not just a number inside this absolute value, but we're actually going to have a variable expression, so it's going to have some x's in it. So this is actually what absolute value equations look like. Absolute value of 2x plus 3 equals 7. And what they want us to see is whether this number that they give us, 2, is the solution to my equation. So I'm going to plug in 2 for x. So I got absolute value of 2 times 2 plus 3 is equal to 7. So I'm going to go 2 times 2, which is going to give me 4, plus 3 equals 7. Now, 4 plus 3 is, of course, 7. Then I'm going to ask myself, absolute value of 7. 7 is 7 away from 0. And I see 7 equals 0. Or 7 equals 7, excuse me. So 2 is a solution to this equation. Now let's look over here. They want to know, is the absolute value of 1/3 x plus 3 equal to 6? And is negative 9 a solution? So let's plug in negative 9. So I'm going to have 1/3 times negative 9 plus 3 is equal to 6. Now, 1/3 times negative 9, if you do that on your calculator, you will notice you'll get negative 3 out of the deal. Negative 3 plus 3 gives me 0. And then 0 is 0 away from 0. Remember, absolute value is always going to give you a positive number in here. Then, I think, is 0 equal to 6? No, siree. So, negative 9 is not a solution to that equation. So, solving absolute value equations. Here are the steps we're going to follow. So we're going to write equivalent equations, so basically equations that mean the same thing, by removing the absolute value bars and writing one with a positive answer and one with a negative answer. This is the big part. Please make sure you underline these two things, positive answer and a negative answer. Then we're going to solve for x in both problems and simplify. So in shorter terms, to solve an equation in the form absolute value of a equals b, where a represents a variable expression, which means it's going to have some stuff in it, and b needs to be greater than 0, we're going to solve a equals b and a equals negative b. So you're going to take whatever's inside the absolute value bars and set it equal to a positive answer and a negative answer. We'll do quite a few problems on this today. So, absolute value of x. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take whatever is inside the absolute value, just x this time, and I'm going to set that equal to a positive answer, and I'm going to set it equal to the negative of whatever's on this side. So I have a positive 5 and a negative 5. Now, if you think about it, if I plug in 5 here, absolute value of 5 is 5. Absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So that's why I get 2 answers. You're always going to get 2 answers out of these equations. So let's look at this one. X minus 5, absolute value of x minus 5 equals 2. So I'm going to set up my 2 equations. So I'm going to take whatever inside the absolute value, x minus 5. I'll write it twice. One of them is going to be set equal to the positive answer, and the other one's going to be set equal to the negative answer. Now, I need to solve these two equations. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And I'm going to get x equals 2 plus 5, 7. So that's one of my answers. Now I'm going to add 5 on this one. And I get x equals negative 2 plus 5. I know that's 3. So that's my other answer. So if I would actually plug these in, I would have 7 minus 5, which is 2. Absolute value of 2, 2. So that one's good. 3. If I plug in 3, I would get 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. Now, if you remember, absolute value always gives me a positive. So absolute value of negative 2 is, in fact, 2. So that's why I always need to do the positive answer and the negative answer. I need to check out both ways that I can get that 2. Let's take a look at a few more. So this one, if you remember, I'm going to set x plus 4, whatever is inside my absolute value. I'm going to set it equal to a positive 8 and a negative 8. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And I'm going to get x equals 4. So that's one of my answers. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And I'm going to get x equals negative 12. So those are my two answers. Now if you would plug them in, you would see you would get 8. What I want you guys to do is to pause the video right now, and I want you to try number 4 before I start it on the video. So please pause now and try number 4 on your own. Welcome back from pausing. So what you should have done is you would have taken 3 minus x, you would set it equal to 6, and do 3 minus x equals negative 6. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. You got negative x equals 3, divide by my negative 1, and I get x equals negative 3 for one of my answers. So you should have gotten negative 3. Now I'm going to do it over here. I'm going to subtract 3 and get negative x equals negative 9, divide by negative 1, and we get x equals 9. So I got double answers on this one, just like you did. Hopefully you got the same answer as me. If not, take a look, see what happened, see where you messed up. It's possible you forgot the negative over here. It's possibly even just an arithmetic error. Last two problems of the night. So 2x minus 3 equals 3. So I'm going to set whatever is inside equal to positive 3 and negative 3. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Get 3 plus 3 gives me 6. Divide by 2. X equals 3 for 1/2 of my answer. Now over here, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. 2x equals, that cancels. Oop, that cancels. I'm going to be left with 0 on this side. Divide by 2. Now, 0 divided by 2 is 0. So I get 3 and 0 for my two answers on that one. Now, if you notice this last problem here, I have this 3 hanging out in front of the absolute value. I have this plus 12 hanging outside of the absolute value. We need to make sure we just have absolute value on the left. So if you notice, like on this one, I just had absolute value, stuff in the absolute value on the left. Not all this junk hanging around. So we're going to get rid of that first. So I'm going to subtract 12 on both sides. Get rid of that 12 first. So I still have this 3 hanging out, but he's the next guy to go. And I get 10 minus 12, which is negative 2. Now, right now this 3 is multiplied. So I am going to divide by 3 everywhere. And I'm going to get, once those get canceled, absolute value of 2z plus 9 equals negative 2 over 3. Now, I notice I have a negative answer for absolute value. So if you remember back, I said absolute value, whatever I have for an answer, should be positive. So I can't have a negative. With an absolute value. I cannot have a negative before I break it into my two equations. So if you ever get a negative answer, you can stop here and you can actually say no solution. So please make sure if you watch out for that negative, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. Because otherwise you would do the two problems and you would think you actually were doing it correctly. But if you would plug it in, you would realize at the end you would not get a true statement. So please make sure you watch out for that. Saves you a lot of time. And that is the end of the video. I hope you had some fun. See you later.